change the equation that Israel equals struggle or Israel equals war to Israel equals green energy and so on and so forth. And that too will require a great deal of activity, if not strictly on the diplomatic scale, but among the public in various countries. First of all, we are living in a world that is changing, in a world in which we see change and decentralization of global centers of power. We live in a world which is trying to recover from the global financial crisis. We are talking about a world in which there is a significant strengthening of non-state organizations, and this requires far more professional and more serious governmental attention, and we are facing the growth of new agendas and seeing them move to the forefront of international diplomacy, subjects such as climate, the environment, energy, human rights, and the Copenhagen conference is just one example. The United States, as I see it, there is no alternative to the special relationship that Israel has with the United States. The United States was, is, and will be the foundation stone of Israel's international relations. In the second chapter, when we look at the European Union, we see a kind of a mixed situation. The relationship with the European Union is moving ahead, perhaps as part of the essence of this organization. It's moving ahead far more slowly. We see the gap between the governments and public opinion very, very clearly. The United Nations is not irrelevant by any means. We are seeing that the United Nations is leading the dialogue on all the new agendas. We're talking about a United Nations which is physically present here, not only in Undorf and Unso, we see also in UNIFIL in southern Lebanon. We're talking about a United Nations which is showing a great deal of sensitivity to human rights and humanitarian issues. Brings me to my final points. What are the central subjects that concern us and will continue to concern us in the coming year? I would like to note 5 subjects. There won't be much new in this. You've heard about this already. The Iranian threat is, of course, a central issue. And not only because of their aspiration to nuclearization, which is the greatest potential threat that needs to be discussed, but also because of its work through terror proxies and as a subversive element in this region of the world and as a country that is seeking hegemony on a regional level. The second matter is the diplomatic issue. I think this has also been discussed already. It is the peace process. This is a very important process on both its levels. The continuation of the activities of building the better conditions for living in Judea and Samaria, as well as a continuation of the very important dialogue with our American allies in an attempt to find the top-down complementation. And the third area is the campaign against the delegitimization of Israel. And as on the other subjects, we're working hand in hand with our colleagues in the army, in the military. 2009 was a very difficult year in this area. Not only was it a year in which the expressions of anti-Semitism against Israel reached a high point of all times regarding the number of incidents, but also because it was a year in which an attempt was made by means of the Goldstone report to push Israel to the margins of international legitimacy. In addition to these 3 subjects, there are 2 additional subjects that we will be working on advancing this year. I have already mentioned economic diplomacy, that I am a great believer in, to advance possibilities for the Israeli economy. And the 5th effort will be that effort to brand Israel in public diplomacy, that national project, in an effort to remove Israel from that bad news slot. What can we do indeed to be part of this new world order that I mentioned earlier? Here I would like to mention just 4 points. the international campaign against terror and the recognition today in increasing parts of the world of the importance of this war. Number two is the identical like-mindedness in values between Israel and the Western world and the developed countries. The third is the economy, innovation, scientific technology, and so on as a key to development, and the element of foreign aid. Benny mentioned earlier the matter of Haiti. Haiti is just one example. That chapter of diplomacy, that as far as our commitment as a Jewish state to help others in need,